Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. This is such an important episode for me today, and I'm joined with these two lovely ladies who I have had the pleasure of growing closer to. That's the silver lining. Like, whenever there's a dark cloud, there's always a silver lining. And so I've got Kristina over in Greece, and of course, you guys know Mariela over in Spain. And so we are all connected, even though we all come from three different. We speak three different languages, but we're all connected through this one language of Ashtanga yoga. And our relationship, I would say, I hope I can speak for you ladies, but really our growing relationship with God through this beautiful practice, and it upsets us when we see somebody abusing that. And so that's what this is about today. We are going to be talking about, I know from my platform, to the Bible says, to whom much is given, much is expected. Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. Same thing, right? And I have been blessed to be given a really big platform over on YouTube. And I know I grew my YouTube through my deep dives, not necessarily through yoga, but I want to be able to use that to platform these stories of injustice and try to make things right. And so that's why we're here today. So if you're not a yoga practitioner, if you're one of my viewers who just likes my deep dives, I ask you to stick around, because what we're going to be talking about that's happening in the yoga world is something that we're seeing happening in a lot of worlds. It's a dynamic of power, and it needs to be addressed. And so how are you ladies doing today?
We're doing fine, thank you. Thank you for having me with you. And yeah, it's a very intense time for all of us. We are in between eclipses, and eclipses have the power to bring out a lot of darkness into the light. So I think it's part of the healing, and it's not easy. It's very painful. And we stand with the victims, and we stand with anyone who has experienced any type of abuse.
Yeah. You guys, some words I might have to go back and please be comfortable, ladies. I can go back and mute in the editing process. YouTube is kind of funny with some words, and so, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. I can just figure that out in the editing process. But, I was hoping we would have more people sign on, but we know that this is a hard thing to talk about. And so we're going to go forward with our conversation. And this has to do with a man named Taylor Hunt. I've never named him in the past, but I have spoken about my issues with Taylor on this channel before, about my sacrum being broken by a teacher. I kind of spoke about it in kind of a laughing way, because what the devil will make for bad, God will use for good. And I was telling you, Kristina, off before Mariela hopped on, I've sent you through my physical therapy, through healing from that break, I was introduced to a form of movement called bar, BARRE, which comes from ballet. And it's very different from Ashtanga in the sense that it's not big movements, it's small micro movements, which really focus a lot on lower pelvic floor strength, which is Uddiyana Bandha. And the joke is, we'll get into this, but my partner is also a senior teacher. You guys have seen Todd do shows with both Kristina and Mariela. And because we are a couple, he's not my teacher. And so half the time, even when I'm here practicing in the kitchen by the dog bowl, if he's home, if I call for him to adjust me, I usually get either "I'm not working right now" or "I'm not your teacher." But sometimes he's nice, and sometimes he will come give me an adjustment if I really need one. And the few times that he has since I've recovered and gone through the bar training and incorporated into my Ashtanga, I'm 42 now, and he always is amazed at how much stronger my body is. He's like, your body just feels, and it's because instead of quitting, which I think is what Taylor wanted me to do, I just redirected the energy for a while to recover. And so it's made me stronger as a practitioner. I feel like it's made me stronger as a teacher. So joke's on you, Taylor. So anyway, and so I don't want to be the only one talking about my story. I want to kind of also honor the victims. But you guys, just before we get into it, please make sure you go to Instagram. A page popped up, like a week ago? How long ago was it that this page popped up?
Yeah, about a week ago. Yes.
And we don't know who's running it, and we respect that they're staying anonymous. It's called 1% Truth. I had some people question that. Guys, this is a play on words with the famous Ashtanga quote, 99% practice, 1% theory. And I like that they named it 1% Truth, because obviously Taylor has been caught in a lot of lies. So what is the truth? And this abuse has gotten out of hand, and not only sexually, but also I'm not the only one, it seems, that has had a bone broken in a Mysore room. And so this is great exposure for what has been going on for about 10 years, this systematic abuse. And for me, I want to acknowledge this before I ask you ladies questions about this. What a lot of people have asked, why didn't authorized teachers say anything? Why didn't they? Well, I'll tell you why I didn't, and I'm authorized. I knew that because one trip when I was recovering from my broken sacrum, I anguished over whether to tell Sharad or not. I had told him when I registered that I had a broken sacrum. I didn't tell him how it happened. And I anguished over whether to tell him the full story or not. Well, here's the thing. I knew if I told Sharad the full story of what had happened, I knew he would believe me, and I knew that he would do something. However, Sharad was one man, and he lives in India. I live in the United States. I knew the fear. Well, I would say the likelihood of retaliation in the United States was going to be high, and that there was nothing Sharad could do to protect me from that. And so that's why I never said anything. And it seems like a lot of women have said the same story, that they were afraid. And so, yeah. And I think that happens in a lot of cases where women, victims of abuse, don't say anything because they're afraid.
No, and it's also from my personal experience, Brian. I totally understand when a woman comes out to denounce and abuse, we are double criticized, we'll double judge. It's all the misogyny and the patriarchy that says, she's crazy, and so we're still living in this predicament. So it's very hard to come out. Once you come out, you're going to get a backlash. And in this case, as I understand, the women were getting threats from this person that he was gonna legally sue. I'm a lawyer, so I understand the threat and how scared
we have somebody. All right, you guys, we have another lovely person with us, Shannon, and she's going to be here in and out. She's at work right now, but she studied with Taylor, and so we're happy to have Shannon here. And if we have more people pop up during this recording, we'll let them in as well. So we were talking about the systematic abuse that happens when a woman speaks up, and how a lot of women didn't speak up at first. I mean, this has been going on and over 10 years now. This has been going on with him. This is a long time. This is not a mistake. This is a pattern of behavior. And so I think that leads us to a good topic to talk about. And again, I want to make it very clear that I was not essayed by Taylor. I understand that I've been told, and I get now that my sacrum was broken because I refused to move to Columbus for that purpose. But it never got there. And I will have to say, looking back at my situation, and this is just my perspective of when my sacrum was broken, one of my best friends was with me. He had traveled down from Canada, and it's a man. He's a gay man, and he was sharing a hotel room with me. And I really believe that because he was sharing a hotel room with me, that there was a barrier there, looking back on the situation, that stopped me from being further harmed. I didn't realize that at the time, but that's just my perspective looking back. So I want to make that very clear that my abuse from Taylor was only physical, and of course emotional and mental, because of the anguish, the smear campaigns. You were saying, as Mariela, when a woman comes forward and says, I've had this happen to me, a lot of times people say, oh, she's just crazy. We know that from victims now, that they have said that's what he says, that he tries to discredit people. Oh, she's just obsessed with me.
No, and they turn it so you become the abuser.
Yeah, it's Darvo.
Now you are the one that is the stalker, that you were like after him, and they turn it. So narcissists think like that.
Yeah.
And also for me and Kristina, we are both teachers in the system, and I never personally heard anything about him. I saw him in the shala and I did not connect with him, but because some people are saying, that all the authorized teachers and certified teachers knew about what he was doing. Some of them knew. not all of us, because, you know, he was not in my circle. He was not my friend. I don't speak to people about other people usually. So I had no idea until all this came out, until I met you, Brice, and you told me about your incident, which was very, very painful for me.
And I think that's mostly American. I think the American teachers mostly knew. And that's the reality is Ashtanga, even though it's a global practice, this is a small world. It's a very small world, and especially within countries. I know, Shannon, you said you're in Alabama. You're close to me. Like, we live in two different states, but we're close. In Atlanta alone, there are only three authorized teachers in the state of Georgia. I'm the only female, and that's myself, Todd, my partner, and Sava. And we're all in Atlanta, because outside of Atlanta, we're looking at the Bible Belt here, which is fine, but Ashtanga is not probably, maybe Birmingham, Alabama, or maybe like New Orleans or Charleston, or there's some cities in the South that could host something like this. So this is a very small world. And so I especially think here in the United States, a lot of the authorized teachers knew, maybe not so much out of the United States. And I wanted to kind of talk about, because Kristina, you're the widow of Derek Ireland. For those that don't know, Derek Ireland was one of the most, he was a pioneer for Westerners really in this practice. Todd, my partner, knew Derek, and he still quotes Derek all the time. Like, Derek used to tell them, like, you need to go walk, like, after practice, because the practice pulls you up, you need to go walk. And so Todd tells his students, like, Derek Ireland said, like, all these years later, you need to go be walking. So I say that. So if you don't know who Derek Ireland is in Ashtanga, you should, because he was definitely, if you're practicing Ashtanga now and you're a white person, you have people like Derek Ireland to thank for that. And so, but this brings up a very interesting conversation that we need to I think we need to talk about when it comes to the ethics of a Mysore room, when it comes to sexuality. And I was laughing because the minute Todd and I started dating, he was like, I'm not your teacher anymore. I can't. And when I would go practice at AYA, the students would often laugh. They said I needed one of those bells, because Todd would just ignore me. I mean, I could have been kickboxing in the corner, and he would have just ignored me because I wasn't his problem. I was his partner, which I understand that. I get that, because when you have that intimate relationship with somebody, it makes the adjustment different. Like, you have a different, it's a different energy. And so, and Kristina, you were saying off air that Derek was really good about that. So can we talk about that? Because I think that's where a lot of there's like a gray area here that I think is where in my perception, a lot of the victims fell into with Taylor.
Sure. The big difference is that, when you are a person, a teacher, that actually you're interested only to be in the shala, which you're not a teacher in that case, to be in the shala just to use your students and just extract the Shakti from the females. As a male, extract the Shakti from the females. It's a problem because then you are there for your own benefit. You're creating a type of sector around you. You pretend to be the one who knows, and then the others around you that don't know, you become a leader. And there's nothing wrong about that as soon as you know what is your responsibility. I mean, your responsibility there is to look after these people, not as a leader, but as a teacher, to share with them the knowledge. It's not there to become the sexual partner of them. And there can be this type of misunderstanding, because when you're teaching to people about their body, when you teach them about how to read their own body, in some point, you can be misunderstood on the aspect that, okay, what about our sexuality? What about this part? I mean, we have the yoga system that actually is teaching us everything about ourselves, right? What about our sexuality? And this is where the confusion starts. Because the role of an Ashtanga teacher is not there to teach you this. The role of an Ashtanga teacher is to teach you how to read your manual, your body, how to find out about things about your existence. But it cannot replace, your husband your family. And regardless how many times we project these roles to our teachers, they are not our mother, they are not our wife, they are not our husband, they are not our child. So since this big situation started to show the yoga teachers like a strong male, that they know what they're doing and they have all the answers of the world, and you go there and you get they get admired by all these women, or vice versa, right? Then they're losing it. Some people, they're losing it. They start to get sick because they don't know how to handle this. They don't know where to say stop. You are not here for this reason, I am not here for this reason. I am married, I have children, or in any case, I'm not interested in this part, But when a teacher constantly throws out himself out as a sex symbol, as a strong male that has a sector around them, and they follow them, and they, even if the wrong things happen, they don't communicate about that. Then that gives him more power and power and power. And this is wrong. This is a mistake. I really admire the teachers that actually they manage to handle the situation, and they even if they're beautiful and if they have this beautiful presence, at the same time they use it for the good of the other people, not to extract the Shakti and use them and then take all the energy from them and throw them on the side up to the next victim. And this is where the women became victims. Okay, so
And
I think a power imbalance in the relationship between teacher and student, and that has to be respected. It's meant to be like that because the teacher is the teacher and the student is the student. There cannot be a friendship. There cannot be a sexual relation because it will spoil the relation. The relation is specifically for the spiritual growth. And once it starts getting like what Brice was saying, it happened to me and my husband because I was teaching in Delhi. I had a group of students and I invited him to come. I met him. He had something in his ear and he was practicing for a few weeks. And then he asked me out. And in the moment he asked me out, I said, if I go out with you, you cannot be my student. I was so sure I could not cross the boundaries because the student is in the vulnerable position. The teacher is in the power position. It's like with your child. It's like you have to take care of the innocent, of the fragile. So once those ethical lines are defined, then the relationship becomes productive for the spiritual growth. But like Kristina is saying, as teachers, we cannot grab something for ourselves, and it may become a big temptation because there's so many women in the yoga shalas, and like you say, these big males, and plus the social media, and plus the fake followers, and all this marketing paraphernalia that they're using. These yoga celebrities are itself a deformation of the Ashtanga practice, and that's where I feel there's it's the root of this problem.
I want to also elaborate on that a little bit too. I've tried to explain this before because even in just the yoga world in general, Ashtanga is its own flavor of like punk rock almost. And there is this attitude around authorized teachers that really couldn't be, as an authorized teacher myself, couldn't be further from the truth. I think people see, to be authorized, we lost Shannon, to be authorized, you carry a level of, I think, to be authorized, that teacher probably has a pretty strong practice, right? You don't need to be a rocket science to figure out if you've been blessed to teach. Then there's a certain capability that person has almost mastered in their practice, right? That's just level, and a lot of times in these Mysore rooms, the teacher isn't practicing, right? The teacher is adjusting. So a lot of times there's still a lot of mystery around the teacher's practice. Oh, here she is. She's come back in again. that maybe, because the teachers aren't trying to, oh, we lost her, the teachers aren't having to like demonstrate because they're actually physically hands-on flipping a person or pulling a leg behind the head. So there becomes this mystique about this teacher. And then you've also got, Todd says this all the time, Ashtanga, you can't be a stupid person. And Ashtanga demands you have a high level of intelligence. There is a heavy philosophy here. And so you've got a lot of smart people involved in this practice. And then you've got this mystique of these teachers who go off, especially in the United States. India is half the world away. They're going back and forth to India. There's this mystery about them because they're traveling back and forth to India. They're doing this thing. And so they do kind of start to carry this like image, which again, as I say, couldn't be further from the truth because we all have our karma. The reason why, Todd always says I never practice in front of my students because I don't want them to pick up my bad habits. Like I got stuff I'm working on too. Like I don't want you to mimic me and pick up a bad habit of mine that I'm trying to correct, And I think that when the teacher and having a good teacher and seeing the way a good teacher, because the power does lie with the teacher and how the teacher navigates the room. And especially, and you're right, especially with male teachers, because you have all these women coming in. There are a lot of obviously homosexual teachers, but a lot of the teachers and male teachers in Ashtanga are straight. And so they get this toughness, and you're right, Kristina, there is an Ashtanga body. There is the practice demands that you work hard, and so that's naturally going to create a physique.
Of course.
You're naturally gonna listen. If you walk in and your Ashtanga teacher is massively overweight, I would be a little bit concerned that they're not going to be able to support you in the adjustments anyway. So it's not a bad thing to have that judgment with them, but I think there becomes this desire, and they are putting their hands on you, and they are adjusting you in vulnerable moments, and so the power does lie in the teacher, man or woman, to be able to put that boundary up. And like Todd does a really good job of that, of not allowing the lionization to start, not allowing that to cross a line into, not being your friend. I'm your teacher. I'm not your friend. And I can see how this could be a problem in a lot of different communities too, though, with this mishandling of power. Does that make sense?
I want to say on this one, there's nothing wrong about the practice to bring up the best of you.
Yeah.
In anything. I mean, one of the reasons we love the Ashtanga is because it's really making us feel really good with our body. And to me, the body is the most sacred thing. People, they say, oh, no, it's the spirit, is this. But without this one, we cannot experience anything. So for me, it's very important to discover all these parts, that our body can offer us as knowledge. We come here with a manual, and it's really, really important to know that. But there is a distinction, the ethical situation that says, something, no, I'm not going to use you. I'm not going to betray your trust.
Right.
I'm not going to make you feel my favorite or the special from all the others, without you being my special or my favorite. If I wanted to be my special, my favorite, I step back and I say, I want to be with you. I want to marry you. I am in love with you.
Yeah.
And then we continue together. Not being there, use this body of somebody else, the body of somebody else, in order to get more vanity, more strength, more. Why? And unfortunately, a lot of us, we're advertising ourselves like this in Ashtanga. It's a problem it's a problem because we do this to the other person. We use our body, through media to do like, look at me, This is, I think, a huge situation, a huge problem, because that means that this teacher has no yoga education if he accepts himself to promote himself. I mean, sorry, I'm going to look Richard Freeman.
Yeah.
I mean, he would never do something like that.
Ever.
With Mary next to him. Do you know what I mean? Is his anger, is his strength. Do you know? I mean, I have to... I'm going to speak about the people that I admire. I'm not going to use names of people I've not admired.
Oh, yeah. David Grieg was the same way. Never felt that. Never. I felt super safe with him. as a woman.
Absolutely. And if about
So sexualization. Now there's sexualization of the image of the teacher because they are being promoted as celebrities. You know, like Kim Kardashian of yoga, and that's a disease. That's a disease because the practice. I mean, we are channels of the energy of our teachers. It's not about us. It's not about us. We're just servants of the Shakti. And the karma of hurting a student is like the karma of hurting your own children.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it happens that the relationship brings a lot of darkness in both the teacher and the student. And that's why a teacher must have a teacher, because we're doing our practice and we need to cleanse everything that is coming out. That's why we were traveling once a year to be with our guru, because we had our own personal work to do. We cannot say, okay, I'm ready, I'm authorized and I'm certified, I'm it, and that's not true. And even now the Sharaji is not here physically, but there's like this devotion to the parampara, like we're servants. We are not the actors. We're not the spotlight. I think that is the disease of these modern times.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, as a teacher, something you learn, because unlike other forms of yoga, with Ashtanga specifically, we're looking at a real intense practice. A lot of, the vinyasa flows, all that kind of stuff, they teacher hop. They'll go to one class here, one class there, different teacher here, different teacher there. But in Ashtanga, you have one teacher that you're working with 6 days a week. At dark 30 in the morning, when you're already half asleep, it's an interesting time to practice because your body's it's tighter in the morning, so there's more vulnerability, and so you have this dance. You're right, Mariela, it's like the parent and the child, because unlike when you're teacher hopping, you over time develop a different relationship with that teacher. And here's Shannon again. And that vulnerability that comes with that, and being able to honor and to see that as a teacher, like we have in one of our manuals at the beginner course that we teach at AYA, where we talk about when is it appropriate, like how we give postures in Ashtanga. Like unlike a vinyasa flow class where you go and it's just the teacher's choreographing it, like we have a system we work with. And when is it appropriate for a student to get a new posture? And we wrote in that sometimes it's not the physicality we're looking at with the student, it's the emotional and mental, what's going on with them emotionally and mentally. Sometimes you could have a student who's super flexible, super strong, but if there's something that we're seeing that we're feeling within the student, that something is on that surface there that needs to be looked at a little bit more, and adding this one extra posture might actually open up Pandora's box. We're walking that razor's edge between dealing with trauma and pushing the student into more trauma. Does that make sense with the potency of this?
Totally. And also sometimes, you may have a student with a stiff body, but has far more awareness. And then you feel that actually the mind is stuck. No, I cannot bind. And then Patabi Joyce, it was very clear, he will stop you not in Majjasana, but in Navasana.
Yes.
For this exactly reason, by giving you the variation of Majjasana, because he knew that Navasana would be the place to put everything, to wait there and put everything together. Yeah. And, I think this is a really beautiful thing, just to be able to see to feel and understand personally, about the practice of another person.
Right. I say,
beautiful, Kristina, what you're saying, because the Mysore room is a very special, unique space, because as teachers, we have the duty to hold the space above everything else. And holding that space is above our priorities. So in the space, if one student starts acting out, we need to stop that, and the acting out could be, I want to be your favorite, here's cake, and here's my letter. And, they start doing that, like little kids that want to be favorite to the teacher. And you need to step in and say the boundary is the most important thing, so I can hold the space. The space is the most important thing because that's where the healing happens. And if you start having your own doubts, oh my God, I may like this student, whatever, then you need to step back. Or maybe you need to have a conversation with the student and say, better you go to someone else, because it's going to damage the space. And if the space gets contaminated, then the whole group goes down. And that's what we have to prevent, because that's our duty. Our duty is to provide a safe container. So victims of all types, as ourselves, because we have come to the practice with lots of traumas. Every human being that is alive right now in the planet has been through hell.
Yeah.
So we do this practice to find healing. What if we come to this practice and find a predator? Oh my goodness. That is so scary, so scary.
There was one for my audience watching right now who might not be kind of understanding what we're saying. There was one of the victims that I won't say her name because she's not here right now, but she posted her story to the 1% truth, and Todd and I were listening to it. And even Todd, as a senior teacher in Ashtanga, when he heard her say this particular part of the story, he goes, "Oh my God!" And he almost got emotional. There is a posture in second series called Yoga Nidra. I would get emotional talking about it. These are legs behind the head poses, right? So for a woman, this particular pose, for people who are not familiar, both your legs are behind your head and you're bound, and so your chest is facing up, right? Your legs are behind your head, so you're very exposed in that region, right? And there are particular adjustments teachers can do where they can put their knees on your thighs. And if you trust the teacher, it's usually okay. I've had that adjustment done to me multiple times by male teachers that I trusted. But I trusted it was fine. But this one person was saying she was in the Mysore room with Taylor. And she was saying she was feeling a lot of emotion come up because she had had abuse in the past. If you guys get what I'm saying, because of what's being exposed. And she said, hold on. She actually communicated with him that and she was on the verge of tears. And he goes, when has that ever stopped me before? So you're looking at victims of assault who are in a very vulnerable posture that exposes that area of a woman. And a male teacher says, when has that ever? In what world is that appropriate? And to have my partner who's a male teacher go, oh my God, like to hear another man say that to a woman who is in a very vulnerable place, who's already been assaulted, is not okay.
Not okay. Like, it's not okay. And, you can imagine, think now, Manju, with his wife,
Yeah.
Sharat with his wife. All this exposure, even Saraswati. Okay, you cannot, it's clear, this part away from the shala. In the shala, you are my student, period, and I am your teacher. And not because I am better than you, but because I respect you.
Yeah.
I respect you.
You're a whole person, regardless of whether you're a beginner. I even asked Todd, I said, how would you, as a male teacher, how would you have handled adjusting a student like that? And Todd said, it's simple. I would have never been over on top of her. I would have been behind her, working by, I would have communicated. With a lot of students, the communication comes through hand adjustments and no verbal. But in that situation, Todd said I would have been verbally speaking with her and listening and helping her. And this is, I tell this story about Todd a lot, and I want to, because this also, Taylor would hold people to this dogmatic extreme. You're talking about variations, Kristina, and variations are important when you understand the student, and Todd takes it for himself. I'm bragging on him, and this taught me a lot when he told me this story, where he really takes it a point to get to know all of his students. What do they do for a living? What's their family life like? Because that informs him how he's going to participate with them on that particular day. And he had this student for a long time, and she was a second series practitioner. And in Ashtanga, we don't typically use walls for headstands. We don't. But this one student, she would get to the headstands at the end of second, and she didn't need the wall. She was always but she would pull her mat closer to the wall, and she would do all these. She didn't need it, though. It wasn't like she was up against it. She was fine. But there was obviously some insecurity that she was struggling with, and so she wanted the wall there. And I would watch this happen. This is right when we first started dating, and I would be observing him and assisting. And after class one day, I finally asked him. I said, "What are you doing? She doesn't need the wall. She's at the end of second." And Todd looked at me and he said, "Do you know what she does for a living?" And I said, "No." "She's the head of the CDC." the center of disease control. She cannot make a mistake in her job. If she makes a mistake in her job, people die. And if she needs to come in here in the morning, and if she needs to have a little bit of security in her practice to get her mind right, to be able to go and do her job, then I'm going to give her that space to do that. I learned, there was another incident where I was helping this student once with Todd years ago do a drop back stand up. And he would call me, go help her. I would do it. She didn't need my help. I didn't know why, like, he was having me do this. She was fine. I was literally, my hands were just there. She was doing it herself. So after class one day, I was like, I don't understand why you're having me help this student. She's fine. And Todd goes, there's something in her spine I'm not comfortable with. He said, every time I adjust her, I can feel something that I am not personally comfortable with. And I want her to have a spot there just in case. Well, I had done an Instagram post a couple days later about my struggles with like autoimmune stuff, like a little bit or arthritis stuff. And I was in the lobby a few days after that, and this particular student comes out and she goes, hey, I saw your post about autoimmune. I have lupus. Todd didn't know she had lupus. He just felt something in her body.
Exactly. But that's the characteristic of an experienced teacher, you know. And also, it's a huge mistake. I don't know if you agree, Mariela, as well. It's a huge mistake to assume that we know. We don't know. We know nothing about this person who just entered the room. So it's really important, you know, to stay humble, you know. And I will agree about this predator attitude, that they want to know anything about you, and so they're able to manipulate. Because at the end, everything you say to them, they're gonna use it to manipulate you and make you shut up and don't share what is happening. And unfortunately, a lot of us, we still, fortunately at some point, but unfortunately for this one, we're still children.
Yeah.
We're still children. So I always will say, you know, to the people that want to teach, you need to do therapy for some years. I'm sorry to say openly, but
Todd says the same thing sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fantastic. We are Westerners, you know. We need to understand our limitations as well. And it's very, very, very important part of teaching, among the good education on teaching, is to be able to know thyself, to understand why I react in these ways. So unfortunately for this guy now, and for all the guys that actually have been around and messed about, picking up the Shakti from here and there, you know, there is a situation that the awareness will not allow this anymore. And that's okay. We respect, we love men, right? I mean, I have two sons, and this is a part of me, you know. I grow up.
6 tons. Yeah.
I have nothing to say about you. Me, about your feet, Mariela, beyond.
What you're saying, Christine, and it's very powerful because you don't know anything about what the person has been through in the room, but when you put your hands on them, you know. Yeah. And that's such a sacred connection, you know. The hands for me speak, you know. I can feel if someone is sad. I can feel if someone is going through a lot of turmoil. I can feel it in the body. And that's something that's like a skill that you develop through the years of teaching. So coming into a Mysore room, everything matters. Yeah. The temperature in the room, the silence, the people that are on your side, everything matters. And that container, like we learned from our teachers to hold it. The container in Mysore for me, I have to tell you, in the beginning, when I first arrived, Sharaji was very intense. He used to yell to us in the middle, in front of 80 people. And sometimes I left crying. He was very intense, but he wanted to wake us up. Because, you know, yoga is about being alert. And sometimes we come and we are there in a daydream. And it's not about that. It's about being present with whatever is happening, even if we feel sad or we feel angry or we feel depleted. It's okay. The medicine is there to do the magic. So he used to shout at us sometimes that we were lost in our thinking. And I thank him for that. I thank him. It was very hard for me. You know, I did not understand. One time I almost left and I say, I don't want to study with this man anymore. Why is he shouting at me? I'm bringing all these people from Latin America. It's so hard for me as a mother of 7 to come to India, and he's jealous at me, and he just... And then I realized, you know, he was doing me a favor. And next morning I went back to the shala and he was smiling at me.
Yeah.
So it's a trust that you develop with your teacher, and that trust is sacred. It's both ways. And this relationship is geared completely for the spiritual evolution. It's not geared so the student can get something out of the teacher or the teacher can get something out of the student. That is very bad karma, very bad karma. We are not promoting ourselves as celebrities because we are not that. We're very humble servants of a lineage. And this has as old as 5,000 years behind us. We're nothing, actually.
We're service to others.
Yoga keeps going.
This is a service-based industry. We are here to serve people, not to have... Your students are not your fans. You're not a celebrity. These aren't your fans. These aren't your groupies. These are your students. And I liked how LaRuga said in her videos, I'm paraphrasing, about how it needs to be student-focused, not teacher-focused. It's student-focused. People are entrusting, especially in Ashtanga, they're literally putting, as in my case too, because my bone was broken, they're literally putting their safety in your hands. And I want to clarify, like, accidents can happen in a Mysore room. Accident can happen. We were talking about that, Kristina. Anywhere an accident can. We are in human. That's the dance of being, according to the Yoga Sutras, like the Prakriti and the Purusha. We're an immortal soul in a mortal body, right? That's the big friction that's really happening. That's the opposing force of we're in something that's gonna die. With spoiler alert, like gonna die one day, but the soul will never. And so we're in that balance in that body, because you were saying, I agree with you. I think sometimes in modern day spirituality, people try to disassociate from their body when actually we're a spiritual being having a human. We're being asked to be human right now, to feel the nervous system. And that brings me to another thing I want to talk about. And I know Shannon's at work right now, you guys. So if she wants, you just pop in if you want to, Shannon, because I know you were a student of Taylor's. There was something that would really bother me. We talked about this before we pressed record, that I wanted to cover, especially with Mariela and Kristina, who are more senior teachers to me, that would bother me about Taylor. You know, even though Ashtanga Yoga is extremely physical, it's not a sport, and it's a healing tool. And Taylor would sometimes do things, even when I knew him 10 years ago, where he would be like, you know, you need to have Ekapada Shirashasana by next week. You need to be able to get your foot behind your head by this point, or you need to be able to catch your ankles at a back bend by this point. And that always bothered me, because I was like, this man, even back then, I was like, this man knows nothing about what yoga really is, or about what's actually happening in the energetic body of a person and the karma that this person's dealing with. And so I've seen that in a lot of the comments on different platforms about this. Like, maybe some students now think that that's Ashtanga. That's not Ashtanga to do that to somebody.
Yes, because you see what's happening is that it can be just like they try to push you by give you a deadline, but you cannot have a deadline in Ashtanga. You know, you don't give an essay because the body doesn't lie. I mean, the body says, you know, is like this. The mind says, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this today. And you go and nothing of these things happen. And then the next day you say, oh, I can open my body. And then everything happens. You never know. I mean, this is the surprise, you know, every time we come in the front of a mat, it's like, okay, let's see today, you know, and that keeps the whole thing excited, and never is the same practice. But this was in a way as he put a bet with a student, you know, let me see if I'm going to make you do this. But it's not exactly like that. When you give a posture to somebody, everything has to be on alignment. I'm not talking just about him and me as a teacher or anything, but the stars, they have to be on alignment. I mean, if you give a posture to somebody, then it's like you're giving them a bunch of flowers. If that moment he goes like, oh no, It's like, oh my God, it has to be everything on alignment. So in that moment, you say to him, something, forget it.
Yeah.
It's okay, Or that means actually he's not ready for that. He has to change his whole attitude. And then he realized, oh my God, what stupidity. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And it's true because it's a gift. Asana is a gift for the rest of the life. You just feel somehow, and then you do your asana, and it's just like it's your best friend. You practice your best friend. So basically, these tactics, like I'm not giving you anything because you are not ready. You're never going to be ready. I keep you 10 years in half primary. It happens, these guys. And the end, the students get really you start to hate the practice from the forward bends. Okay. Yeah. Or on the other extreme, I'm going to give you this and this and this and this, but you're going to push yourself, it doesn't matter. You do it for your teacher because by then you have to do it. So my ego is going to get fulfilled. All these huge misunderstandings, I think they happen since people that will go to Mysore and they will not have any yoga education. They just find themselves into the shala without being filtered by anybody else. And then all this gata, they translate everything. They stop talking with the teachers, with Manju, with Sharat, with Saraswati. They stop talking with them directly. They start to talk to each other, creating this huge noise and exchange of information that actually most of it has no value. Sorry to speak like that,
No, I agree.
And then you're totally nailing it. Exactly. That was my experience for the past 10 years in Mysore. There were so many groups and they were discussing asana in the groups, people that were beginners. Can you believe, oh, my kapotasana, oh, he came and adjusted me. I remember a student of mine, she was so sad because during the whole month, Sharaji barely touched her. And she would go out for coffee with her friends, and the girls were like, yeah, he touched me today. He gave me a posture, as like a medal or something. And she was asking me, he doesn't touch me. He doesn't look at me. What do you think it means? And I said, don't worry about that. That doesn't matter. Just be there, breathe. If you're breathing, the magic is happening. Going back to the invisible, in Ashtanga is the most important thing, the breath and the bandha and the drishti. That's it. If you're doing that, the practice is going to grow and the postures will come after. But if you yank someone into an Ekapasya Shasana, some people are not meant to do Ekapasya Shasana ever. The head of the femur is not going to allow it, and it's fine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything if you do it or not.
No.
And if you put someone in the posture, then you break their sacrum. You understand?
Well, and for me, when he broke my sacrum, he was adjusting my spine in a way that didn't need to be adjusted in that. The posture I was in, the spine is supposed to be curved. Not in Ekapati, you're sitting up and you're pressing back. But in Supta Karmasana, it's a different variation. And I know that to sit on a spine and I know Sharat doesn't allow that adjustment anyway for this particular reason. And I didn't need to be adjusted in it. That was the thing. I did not even need to be adjusted in it. It was a punishment. It was him violently punishing me for not doing what he wanted me to do in my personal life, not in the Mysore realm. And you're right. You're not collecting postures to make the teacher happy. That's not what this is. You're not achieving postures to gratify the teacher. And this is one thing that actually has also driven me batshit crazy over these last maybe 10 years, is I noticed that teachers judge their value by how many students they have in the advanced series. But yet they push their students to get to third series, but then when the students do primary series, it's a mess. When I have a student that comes in from out of town and they have a clean primary series, that's when I know they have a good teacher. Is because the teacher nurtured. And you're right too, when you keep somebody at half primary for Todd even said that he'll have students doing primary series for so long and he'll be like, I think we're just going to start second because I think by doing second some things in primary are going to unlock. We have a student who's an American football player, so he spent a lot of times being hit. And so there's certain patterns in his body from survival. I mean, that's survival when you're in that getting smacked so many times, body to body contact, that's going to take a little bit of time to unwind some of that tension, because the body is going to protect you. And so we have to honor the natural state of the body. And now that student has started second, because after years of being in primary, Todd has decided that I think it's time to actually start working second series, because that's going to start to unlock things in primary. And the opposite happens too, my friend. Sometimes I remember I got to a point where I was so strong in second that things in primary start to kind of like fall apart, because the body's constantly like bobbing and weaving. And even with women too, they say that a man hormonally goes through the same cycle every day. Hormonally, women go through a month of a cycle. And so for women, we're already going through crazy making just by having a uterus, and so that has to, and actually Todd's really good at acknowledging that as well with women. Like, I think most male teachers know every woman's cycle because we take a few days off, so he kind of knows like when they're not going to be there. And that's one thing I want to say for any student like Shannon or any student of Taylor: please do not beat yourself up. Do not take over from him. Nonviolence is the number one thing in yoga. And we should not use postures as a way to manipulate and violate people. The postures are hard. They're the way they're set up, the alchemy of the body is gonna unlock things anyway. It's gonna get gnarly anyway. Like, you should not, I tell my students, I know this might sound bad, but I tell my students all the time, it's a mantra that we have in my class: there are a lot of flexible assholes in the world.
And vice versa.
Like, your value as a human being has fuck all to do with you're getting your legs behind your head.
Also, I wanted to add something, and is that after Sharaji took over, after Patavi Joyce died, the first thing he did was to gather his teachers. So we had the first teacher gathering. It was in 2009, and Patavi Joyce had died like a month before. And he taught us the Vinyasa count. And then he started supervising our adjustments, because that adjustment that you receive, Brice, where he sits in your sacrum, this huge man, heavy, and you are like very light, of course.
Yeah.
This is not allowed. Supta Kurmasana is not supposed to be adjusted like that. He taught us specifically, don't do that. Do this. And he taught us exactly how to adjust. So being an authorized or a certified teacher is not only about doing your practice and holding the room, it's about having your teacher supervise your adjustments. And also to know the Vinyasa count, because you need to know the count so you know when they have to inhale and exhale. Because if they're doing it the other way, then the method is not going to work. This is like listening to the teacher and saying, you need to take 2 spoons in the morning, 3 spoons in the night. And if you take 5 in the morning and 1 it doesn't work. So the breath, the count, the rhythm, there's a rhythm that happens in the Mysore room, with all the breathing. And the teacher is breathing with the students. We are one, in that container. And it's so beautiful. It's a room with such potential. It's amazing for the teacher and for the students. And if it really clicks, oh my goodness, is the best thing that can happen to us in the world. And if it doesn't, it can be scary. It can be dangerous, like it happened to me in last February in the Sharaj Yoga Center without Sharaji. They can break your body. They can break your soul. They can just like really wreck you like a train, because it's a very powerful and intense practice. In the wrong hands is dangerous.
It's poison. And that's the opening chant. We go to the jungle doctor to remove the poisons. And this is poison itself. And you walk that fine line. One thing I wanted to, before we also, because I know we've been on for a little over an hour now, but I wanted to, there's something in his book that he wrote that has really bothered me. And I wanted to address it, because I don't like spiritual manipulation. There are things that I really have a hard time with. Spiritual manipulation is one of them, and people who use God as a weapon is another thing that really pisses me off. And a lot of religions do that. They use God as a weapon. In Taylor's book, he talks about his addiction journey. Now, I'm going to be very frank and say I have questions about, I'm starting to doubt some of his story. And I don't mean to sound mean about that. He's just lied about a lot of stuff. And I'm starting, and this is part of the reason why. There's a part in the book where he talks about the practice removed his track marks, his scars. That, when I read that in the book years ago, I threw it down. I said, that is bullshit. That is bullshit, and that is spiritual manipulation. I have scars on my body from surgeries that I had as a child. I have a huge scar on my stomach. I had an appendectomy when I was 12, back in the dark ages when they literally opened your hole. Now they do it very tinily to pull the appendix out. So I have a huge scar going across my stomach. That is an appendectomy scar. I'm sure women who have had cesarean sections, they have huge scars going across. These are innocent. You did not. This is an innocent scar that was collected. Ladies, has the practice ever removed any of your scars?
No,
Not
I'm
now.
I am right. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of gaslighting happening.
Yeah.
And like right now, just we had a lot of obstacles to come together today.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
People use all kind of arguments to distract you from what is happening, and what is happening is very serious, and it should not happen again. The Mysore room is a beautiful gift from our gurus, from our teachers. And we need to preserve it, and preserve it with so much respect and devotion. And even if our gurus are not here with us in person right now, but they are in our hearts. Kristina, you have Manjuji. You're very lucky. But it's their legacy. So that Mysore room, to be able to walk in a Mysore room, you need to have your practice going. Some teachers stop practicing once they get their authorization, even their certification, because as Kristina says, the body is very honest. You can see if someone is practicing or not.
You absolutely can tell if someone's practicing or not. They're definitely. Well, I just want, so you guys, please be aware of any teachers that give magical stories like this. The magic is you. Like, you're the magic. Like, you being on. I tell people some of the, because now I home practice. I practice in the kitchen by the dog bowl. Our dog, Kristina, our dog is a rescue from India. He's from Gokulam. And I swear to God, we've joked that he is the reincarnation of one of the Joyces, because if I get on my yoga mat, it is the funniest thing. I don't know why he does this. If I start messing around on my yoga mat, like not doing my practice, he gets up and starts barking at me. Like, sadly, when you actually do your practice and your breathing, he'll just sleep. He'll just sleep. So I am literally being monitored by a street dog from Gokulam. I've got a dog bowl beside me. It's dark. It's dark 30. Like, it's dark. Usually my pants are inside out. I usually have dog hair on me. Like, there's nothing glorious happening. But the most profound I know. The most profound moments for me have been those moments on my mat where I'm shaking and I'm on the verge of tears, and I'm at that one, because we all have it in our practices. I don't care how advanced you are, if you're a beginner. Every person has one or two postures that just really, that they dread, and that they it's like this, that's really where the potency is. And those simple moments of being in that posture and having that profound humility and vulnerability with God, that's the magic. That's the magic. Not your track marks disappearing, some story about this practice removed my scars, this practice turned me from 5'5" into a 6'1". Like, no, like, that's magical thinking, and that's manipulation. And please don't fall for that.
And even if it's happened, don't talk about it.
And what really matters, Brice, for you and for all the victims that are going to watch this later, is that healing is possible. Healing
absolutely.
is possible, and the practice in good hands can heal you in all senses. So no matter how you're feeling, healing is possible. I want to say that from my own experience, from watching you. I'm so happy I met you, Brice. I'm really like, you were like a blessing from my guru, you and Todd.
Back at you.
It's like, it's so wonderful that in this very, very sad year, I could meet you both, and Todd, and even your dog. and remember, remember that we were very lucky to be in Mysore 20 or more years ago, like you, Kristina, and that is through us that preservation needs to happen. And many darkness is coming out, a lot of darkness is coming out, and yet we are not going to forget what we received, the real thing.
Absolutely. It's Sharat used to talk about you clean gold. How do you clean gold? You boil it so the impurities come to the top, and that's what's happening right now. The impurities are coming to the top to be seen. And I've said before what happened to me with Taylor. You're right, Mariela. I mean, joke's on you, Taylor. You tried to hurt me violently so that I couldn't practice, and what you did to me only made me stronger. And I found different movements to make my body even stronger. That's made me a better teacher too, because doing these different movements helped me understand my own pelvic floor in a different way. And so now when I work with students, I'm able to take that and incorporate that into my teaching too, to help them get stronger. Like Todd always says, Todd's like, I'm never going to ask a student to get more flexible, but I'm always going to ask them to get stronger, because that strength is what's securing you, and that has helped me. So joke's on you. You know, my friend Cindy, I teach at her studio. She was an Anusara, so she went through all the John Friend stuff, and she says it brilliantly. Like, sometimes when there's an injury, sometimes when something bad happens, all the universe is asking us to do is to change direction, to change that energetic direction. And that's so simple. And so I really want every single person out there, if you have been a victim of Taylor Hunt or any other teacher, I can speak for me as a teacher, and I think I can speak for Todd. Please let the teacher know privately, especially in Ashtanga, because as authorized Ashtanga teachers, it breaks my heart that this is happening. It breaks my heart. I couldn't do a whole lot. It breaks my heart that so many people were abused by this beautiful practice, and I'm just so lucky that I had David Garrigues before I ever met Taylor, so I had an understanding to fall back on. And I want to also take a moment. I think we kind of touched this a little bit. All the men out there who are good teachers, the Todd Rodricks, the Derek Irelands, the Richard Freemans, kind of make me emotional. The David Garrigues, who have seen so many women come through their shala and have,
of course.
and Sharat. Oh yes, no, but that goes without saying. The Joyce, Manju, yeah, who have been there and actually held their students' hand, or literally held their bodies up while they were having a traumatic response, and did it with grace and with love.
Exactly.
And treated their students with love and respect, and never judged their students' value on what they could perform. We're not. I mean, Shirai used to laugh at us, Mariela. Were you there that time where he was like, you seen Cirque du Soleil, I seen 8 times. They do it better. Like, that's not you. You're a yoga student, right? And the body ages, things happen, the body changes, and we're just riding with the flow. Years ago, I did a deep dive into Skinwalker Ranch. And I studied a lot about the Navajo. And the Navajos, it hit me so hard, would teach their children. The Navajos in Arizona, that's where their tribe was. That magic exists in the world. You can practice it in the light, or you can practice in the darkness. The choice is yours. When you practice in the light, you work with nature to help somebody flow through with ease. But when you practice in the dark, you're working against nature for your own benefit.
Exactly.
A good Ashtanga teacher is just that. They're helping that person work with their body, work with their karma, work with their trauma throughout all the ebbs and flows of the week, the month, the years as they grow. I mean, Todd's had students for 20 years, just, every day for 20 years, through the birth of children, the loss of a parent, the divorces. And to work with that student and support that student through the unveiling of trauma. And then you have people like Taylor, who worked in the dark because they used the practice to hurt. Oh, we've got another person coming on. It's a little late, but here, we'll let her come on. A little dark, and that hurt people. And I want to really, hi Karen, we're about an hour in, but we're glad to have you here. And so I would really encourage students to look at your teachers and see how they are doing that dance with each student. Not just, we allow that at AYA. Todd allows students to sit and watch the Mysore room if they want to, if they want to watch because sometimes in the Mysore room, like, you're so in your own stuff that you're not even realizing what's going on with other people. And just to be able to watch that tango with anybody else in the Mysore room and how that teacher addresses that is really important, because that love, when you have a good teacher, then you are really lucky, because you have a support system there that is unbelievable and profound, and that's not what Taylor was. And I am so sorry. I know Shannon's at work, but Karen, it's so good to have you. Do you want to say anything? If you can hear me. And this ABUSC, this abuse it can't continue. And I know I've seen some teachers say, like, we have to forgive and let him redeem himself. No, we can forgive, but a boundary and trust has been broken in a very big way. And it's happened. If a mistake happens once or twice, okay, we're human. None of us are perfect. But when there's an repeated abuse of power, when multiple women have been groomed, when multiple bones have been broken, when multiple lies have been told, this is not a mistake. This is a personality. And this type of personality does not guarantee the rights to be a teacher, to hold that authority. I don't know what happened to Karen, but anyway, but I know we've been in a little bit over an hour. Is there anything else we can do a follow-up, guys? We can do a part 2 for more of the victims. If anybody else wants, you're totally, listen, we're all, Mariela, Kristina and I are female authorized teachers. We're here we believe you. We believe you when you say you've been hurt by this man. So, is there anything else you ladies want to say?
I would like to just say that Ashtanga is not abusive system. I mean, we have to cross the line, because today, as I said, I saw this post that would say, like, we are with the victims of Ashtanga. This is very general. Okay, we are with the people that they receive this abuse generally, not just with Ashtanga, because Ashtanga is a wonderful system. Whatever they do, when they use it and they use it wrong, like you see around, everything is like this. They use the most beautiful things, they use it with the wrong way. And that's why it's very important thing for us yoga teachers as well, to really, when we have the choice towards to do the right thing, to choose the right thing finally, and not be into this sort of like thing, oh yes, in good is bad and bad is good. Yeah. This is a mistake now to think like this. We need to have clear choices. We are adults. We are not children. We know we are all these years into this connection with people and with ourselves. We try to figure out. It's very important to take the right choices. Is this yoga? Yes or not? We choose what it is, the path. We choose this path. That's why we want to think that we know something from yoga. Also, I wanted to say that, yes, the healing is there. The healing is happening every day. And we all had, in some point, more than less, most of the women, we had to experience something like this. Even men, we had to experience something like this. So we give to ourselves this healing space and understanding, and we don't have to forgive ourselves for something if this happened to us, because if we knew better, we would do. But the thing is that it's very, very important to understand that through this injury, we're learning. And the injury is there. This is how life is. Sometimes the injury is there to teach us things. You know, I'm very grateful to you guys. Thank you so much for having this wonderful afternoon. Thank you, Shannon, as well. And I want to express my thanks for Manju as well, because he gave a lot of this attention to how he will teach the adjustments, which is, for us, it's really, really important. I mean, as a beginner, we see something, we see and we copy as a beginners, As a talk primary practitioners, we listen, but as a Mysore practitioners, we feel. So it's really, really amazing. And just that, the Ashtanga is such a wonderful system. It's been loved. It doesn't make any difference to Ashtanga if we practice Ashtanga or not. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. It's a valuable knowledge there that we can approach. And just this, to think about our karma and about our people karma, the people that are around us, to look after them as they're looking after us. That's all, with the most possible good way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mariela. Any parting words? And I will think I will. We'll plan a part 2, probably maybe on a Saturday or something. So, because I just realized so many us in the Ashtanga world, we were done working by like 10 a.m. So, so I will maybe plan a part 2 on a Saturday for more people to hop in that don't have to be at work. 'Cause I know Shannon's at work right now. So, Mariela, though, before we sign out, any parting words for our students as an authorized teacher?
Well, first of all, thank you, Kristina, for saying that. Please don't throw the baby with the water. This is something that needs to come out, so there's a purification. And all of us here have been through some kind of abuse. It could be sexual, emotional, it could be mental, and we know how it feels. So we feel you. Actually, this past week, I have been feeling you in my body. And today I was in the shala and I was paining a lot in my sacrum, and like these type of things that, we are processing all this pain together. Yeah. So you're not alone. And we are here for you. We're here for you not only now. We're here for you, and you can write us, you can contact us. We have been in this practice enough to know that there's going to be many ups and downs. And this, I would say, that is a down, but it's not about the system. It's that sometimes things need to be purified, like you said, like the gold. But the system is amazing. The system is very, very precise, and it's going to hit us where we need to let go and surrender and cry and open, and it's going to hit us all in different places. So the system in the adequate hands, transmitted by teachers that have tried it in themselves, that can say, look at my life. This is my life. This is, after 20 years of this practice, this is my life. You can see it. It's completely transparent. And then in that life, you can see if the practice has worked or not. If you see someone that is depressed, that is hurting, that is like angry, that is an addict, that is, the practice is not doing its thing. But if you see a transformation, then it means that the practice works. So yeah, we're all human, we all make mistakes, but the practice is amazing. It's the biggest blessing, at least, that I have received in my life. And my teacher, oh my God, he's with us today.
Oh, he's totally with us today. And I just want to second that if Sharat knew the extent of the abuse, he would have done something. I just want to express to the victims that this is telling Sharat, as I said in the beginning, telling Sharat about this abuse is a little bit more nuanced than maybe you realize, because someone like me and a lot of people were terrified of what would happen to us in our home countries, especially the Americans, the retaliation that would come once we got back, because Sharat couldn't protect us from that. He could protect us in India, but he could not protect us from the retaliation we would have received back in our own home countries. And that's what I was afraid of, because the extent of what Taylor did to me, I haven't even said the whole extent of what he did to us, and the smear campaigns and the defamation, just because it's the Darvo, right? It's reversing the abuser and the victim. It's called Darvo, if you want to look that up. And so, you should never walk on eggshells around your teacher. You should never, I mean, there is an excitement in the Mysore room, and there is a lot of nerves when it comes to having to do some of these practice. Some of those are good to have because it's that attention, but you should never be afraid of your teacher. You know, you should never feel uncomfortable around your teacher. And that's one thing I always want from my students is to feel comfortable with me. That's the hardest part is of a teacher for me. That's my hardest because I'm a Scorpio moon. So I cry at Hallmark commercials. Like a McDonald's commercial on TV can make me cry because I'm a Scorpio moon. And that's the hardest part for me in my journey as a teacher is times when I have to be tough because I know a student's just about to have that big breakthrough without just crumbling with them and crying on the mat with them, but that's just how we are human beings, and we're here to support you and love you. And we're not, none of us as students I'm not a guru. I have my own stuff I'm still working through. I'm not perfect. We're just teachers. We've just done this a little bit longer than you, and I always tell my students, I'm just trying to help you not make the mistakes that I made. So I have to learn from my mistakes. I have to learn the hard way. So I'm just trying to make you learn, like help you navigate this, but then of course I can't interrupt people's karma. Karma's got to be played out. But I know, Shannon, you're at work. You can stay quiet if you want to, but if you have anything you want to say, you can. If not, I know you're at work, so we won't force you to. But what I think I'll do, is there anything you want to say?
Just appreciate all of your time today and having the conversation. I'm still grappling because I only learned about all of this today. A friend shared with me everything that's been coming out since I had my son. I have been less in the loop with everything in the community. And I'm really left with a lot of gratitude that I had a primary teacher before I met Taylor that sort of set a very different tone with the practice and taught me a lot about the accessibility that the practice can have without being quite as regimented. And when I was teaching, I definitely invoked Taylor's name a lot after having practiced with him. And I have very mixed feelings about all of that now. And even got feedback when some of my students went and practiced with him of it not being for them. And so I started adding that caveat that, this is not necessarily the teacher for everyone. And you've got to honor what you're getting back from whoever you're submitting to as a teacher and not give away your power. And I'm just really grateful for my original teacher, Akasha, that set a real tone for me that I think helped me keep in perspective the things that he definitely taught me a lot of the counting and the Sanskrit and all of that, but I can definitely relate to the intensity of my experience with him. And a teacher that followed him more than I did end up injuring or assisting me into an injury. And that is one of the reasons I really pulled back from participating in practicing with Taylor himself, because I could tell where that insistence was coming from before my body was really ready for an adjustment I received. So just here to commiserate and encourage the open conversation and wanted to know more, so I appreciate you guys offering that today.
We're so happy you're here. And listen, let's we'll reconvene. I probably should have scheduled this for a Saturday because I know I forget again when you're in the Ashtanga world and you do this professionally, you forget that people. I think my boyfriend even forgets sometimes that other people go to work on moon days. He always would be like, "Oh, we can't go to the grocery store. It's moon day." I'm like, "The grocery store's open." It's just us that don't practice. The bank's still open. So what I can do is I can sit down and look, and maybe we can do a Saturday or something when more people are off and we're not practicing on Saturdays. So it could give people more flexibility to come on. And yeah, we're here. We're here for you. And it's hard to speak up, and so I admire you, Shannon, for being able to make that observation within yourself to notice that people are not responding positively, and to that's That's smart to be able to notice that as a teacher, that there are other people that are not responding positively to that. And abuse is never okay, you guys. It's never, being a tough teacher and being an abusive teacher are two very different things.
And I would like to say,
Yeah.
I would like to say to Shannon, honor your past. You know, it was you, it was not him. It was you. You wanted to learn more. You wanted to discover more. And definitely, we learn from every experience. Even the fact that you appreciated more your previous teacher, you know, even that is so amazing, you know. And this is how it is. This is how life is. We go through several paths and something, you know, is pulling us out. And it's okay. And it's okay. Thank you so much for sharing this experience with us. Thank you.
Sometimes you learn who you don't want to be, who you don't want to emulate, and that's just as valuable, you know. Well, thank you all very much, you guys. I'm going to have Shannon, if you want to email me any of your studio's links, I will be more than happy to put them in the description box of this video for people to find your studio if you want. You don't have to. You can just send me an email at esotericatlanta@gmail.com, channel name at gmail.com, and I'll put all the links down for you. But you guys, I'm going to have Kristina and Mariela's links all also in the description box below. And even though Todd grappled on whether he wanted to join us, but he felt like it should be the ladies. So I heard him kaplunking around in there in his practice while we were chit-chatting. But I will have all of AYA's links down in the description box as well, you guys, as well as where I only teach a couple of days a week now because I do YouTube mostly now. But I will put my links there to other classes as well. And so if you've been injured by Taylor, and if anything I said to you about my recovery sounds interesting, just private email me as well. I'll be more than happy to send you. I sent Mariela some of the stuff when she got injured that helped me when I was recovering. And so there are things we can do to help you get your body back. That's the beautiful thing about the body, right? The body is always changing. That's frustrating sometimes that it's always changing, but that's also the positive thing, is that when you're injured, there's always the path to healing. The body is always working to heal itself. And so, and hopefully it'll just make you stronger. All right. Well, enjoy. I know it's late over in Europe, so you guys have a wonderful evening, and we're going to have the rest of our day here in the United States. So we love you all. Keep practicing. You're the magic, not the teacher. You're the magic. That's you. You're it. You're the magic. So bye, everybody.
Bye, darling. Thank you so much. Bye.